Welcome to Conversions in the Metric System. So let's start by having a conversion table. Let's just focus on the factor part right now.
It does seem backwards, but that would mean that every time you have 1 kilometer, it's the same thing as having 1,000 meters. So for example, if I have 5 kilometers, 1,000 times that would be 5,000 meters. And I talked about it being in meters, but it could be grand, liters, seconds. It could be anything in the metric system. For example, convert 3.27 kilometers to meters. I always start the same way. I grab my conversion chart. With practice, you'll memorize the chart. You're not going to need it every single time, but it's a good habit to refer to it. So 3.27 kilometers has to be converted into meters. So the two things I'm concerned with in this case are kilometers and the base unit, which is meters. And remember, the base is just 1. So we show that. So we have a start number times a conversion factor times another conversion factor. And because there's 2 conversions, the 1,000 and the 1, we have 2 conversion factors. And it's going to equal the converted number. And now we just plug in our numbers. So it's 3.27 times 1,000 times 1. So our conversion factors just come from the chart. So that's where the 1,000 and the 1 came from. So 3.27 times 1,000 is 3270 times 1, which just ends up being 3270 meters. Now I want you to notice something. When I went down, I started at kilometers and went down to meters. There's a multiplication. We're going to do another couple of examples. How many millimeters is 0.0047 kilometers? We're always going to start the same way. We grab our conversion chart. So we end up with, because we're looking for millimeters, so the 1,000 conversion factor, and we start at kilometers, 0.0047 kilometers. So again, the 1,000 conversion factor. And we're going from big to small, so it's going to be a multiplication. So just as we did before, our number times our conversion factors will give us our converted number. We just plug in our numbers and we're done. So we start at 0.0047. Our first conversion factor is 1,000. Our next conversion factor is also 1,000. And that's going to equal our converted number. 0.0047 times 1,000 is 4.7 times 1,000, because 1,000 didn't just magically disappear, it's still there. 4.7 times 1,000 is 4,700. So 4,700 millimeters. Never lose sight of what you're converting to, is equal to 0.0047 kilometers. Now we're going to look at another example. Convert 43,000 centimeters to decameters. As always, we bring in our conversion chart, and I'm concerned with centimeters and decameters. Now this time, I'm starting at centimeters and I'm going to decameters. So we're going up. So think about this. If we go down, we multiply. If we go up, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to divide. So our equation is pretty much the same, with one little difference. Rather than multiplications, we're going to use divisions because we're going up. Now we just plug in our numbers. 43,000 to start, divided by a conversion factor of 100, because that 100 just comes from this conversion factor here, and divided by a conversion factor of 10. Again, that conversion factor just comes from there. Since those are the two conversions that we're concerned with. 43,000 divided by 100 is 430. Divide by 10, because it didn't just magically disappear, it's still there, which is equal to 43. So 43 decameters is the same thing as 43,000 centimeters.
So just a reminder, if you go from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, it's a multiplication. If you go from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, it's a division. Now we're going to look at the conversion of squares and cubes in the metric system. For example, how many decimeters squared is 0.3 kilometers squared? Now, for something radically different, I'm going to pull in my conversion chart. And the two that I'm concerned with are kilometers and decis. Because we're going from a big unit to a smaller unit, we're going to multiply. So that means that we're going to use our starting number multiplied times our conversion factor, multiplied times the other conversion factor. That's going to equal our converted number. We have those numbers, so we can just plug them in. But in this case, it is squared. So that means our conversion factors are slightly different. The conversion factors also need to be squared. So 1,000 squared is 1,000,000 and 10 squared is 100. And then we're just going to multiply the 0.3 times 1,000,000 times 100. So 0.3 times 1,000,000 is 300,000 times 100, which is 30 million. So 30 million decimeters squared is the same thing as 0.3 kilometers squared.
Now we'll look at a cube example. How many cubic meters is 10,000 cubic centimeters? Brace yourself. The first thing I'm going to do is pull in my conversion chart. And just a reminder, if I go from a big unit to a small unit, I'm going to multiply. If I go from a small unit to a bigger unit, I'm going to divide. So in this case, the two things I'm concerned with are centimeters and base unit of meters. And remember, the base is just 1. So as before, we have the start number, the conversion factor, another conversion factor, because we're going between two units. And that's going to equal the converted number. Now realize that we're going from centimeters to cubic meters. So we're going from big to small. So we're going up. So it's going to be a division. So it's going to be the start number divided by the conversion factor, divided by another conversion factor, and that's going to equal our converted number. So the number we start with is 10,000. And the next conversion factor is 100. The other conversion factor is simply 1. As we said, they're going to be divisions. And I'm going to put my conversion factor in brackets, just as a reminder that it is a separate number. Now this one is a cubic, so it's raised to the power of 3. So we have to raise our conversion factors also to the power of 3. So 100 cubed is 1 million, and 1 cubed is 1. Now be careful with the 1 million. Don't think it is part of every solution. Just because it's factors of 10, it does show up a lot. But it's just a coincidence.
So 10,000 divided by a million is 0.01. 10,000 divided by a million is 0.01. And 0.01 divided by 1 is still 0.01. So 10,000 centimeters cubed is equal to 0.01 cubic meters. Now we're going to look at volume conversions in the metric system. It is possible, even likely, that you'll be given a sample and a volume in it, so 34 liters, for example, and asked to convert it into distance measurement. So how many cubic meters is this? Oops. For example, will a 311 decameter cubed pool hold 2,900 liters of water? Notice the size of the pool is in cubic decameters. So it is a distance measurement. So the first thing I do, as always, is pull in my conversion chart. When we look at the chart, we don't see any connection between meters and liters. But we know that 1 cubic centimeter, or 1 cc, is the same as 1 milliliter, and 1 cubic meter is the same thing as 1,000 liters.
At this point, we do a little bit of math. Because this is in decameters, it tells us that we want to move to the base unit of meters. And remember, our conversion factor when we're going to the base is just 1. Now we pull in our equation that we usually use. And remember, since we're going from bigger to smaller,
from deca to the base, that would mean that we're going to multiply. So we're just going to go to our equation and we're just going to multiply, and it will equal the converted number. Now we just plug in the numbers. So the start is 311. The conversion factor is 10. The other conversion factor is 1. Remember, our conversion factors, they just come from the table. We also need to remember that it's cubed. That means that all our conversion factors have to be cubed as well. So 10 to the power of 3 is 1,000, and 1 to the power of 3 is 1, and there is no magic in life, so it's still 311. And that multiplies to be 311,000 cubic meters. Then I have to change that cubic meters into liters. I know 1 meter cube is equal to 1,000 liters. And I have 311,000 cubic meters, and I don't know how many liters that's going to be. So I'm just going to call it X. Then I'm just going to cross multiply, and it's going to give me 311 million liters. So it's A-okay. That pool is more than big enough to hold 2,900 liters. Now we'll look at another example of converting volume measurement to distance measurement. In the metric system, for example, how many decameter cubed is 4,000 milliliters? So the first thing I do is grab my conversion chart. I also grab my conversion values from liters to meter cubed and milliliters to centimeters cubed. So remember, our conversion is 1 centimeter cubed is the same thing as 1 milliliter, but we can also go the other way. 1 milliliter is the same thing as 1 cubic centimeter. So therefore, 4,000 milliliters must equal 4,000 cubic centimeters. And the question wants us to convert to decimeter cubed. So I'm going from centi to deci, which is going to be up. That means it's going to be a division. So I will bring in my conversion equation and adjust it as needed. You'll notice that deci and centi are both on the bottom side of the base. They're both on the same side. Because they're both on the same side, I have to do a division. That will give me the correct conversion factor. So there is 10 centimeters in a decimeter. So that means that there is 100 centimeters in 10 decimeters. That just comes from the conversion table. So the answer to that division, or our conversion factor, is 10. We only need one conversion factor, so this one is gone. And we're going up, so it is a division, and it's going to equal our converted number. So our start number is 4,000 centimeter cubed. Our conversion factor is 10. But remember, we need to be careful. This is in cubic, so we have to cube our conversion factor, which is going to be 1,000. So it's 4,000 divided by 1,000. And that's going to equal our converted number. Our converted number is then 4 decimeter cubed, which equals 4,000 milliliters. I hope this helps.